Welcome back to Marion's World, where this week I'm concentrating on actually doing the Trapunto quilting on my stitch journal page. So I hope you're going to really enjoy that and don't feel that it's too much or too old-fashioned, because it's a really nice technique. And at the end there is another couple of pieces of channel news, one of which will be how I've got on with sewing my linen duster so far, because it's come on quite a way. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy watching how to do Trapunto. I'll see you at the end. The corners, and all my 3 corners are done, just this one waiting to be done. I've just got a green in my needle and didn't have anything suitable in the tangle, so I'm just using this bit of thrifted Madeira, and I've got 2 strands in a fine needle with a sharp point. And so I need to make these leaves ready to be stuffed, because Trapunto is the earliest form of quilting, and it was always embroidered on 2 pieces of fabric that were stitched together, and all the embroidery was done first, and then selected pieces, selected areas were stuffed afterwards. So unlike in today's quilting, where we normally put batting, whether that be quilt batting or an old blanket or a piece of flannel or something, in between the 2 layers, and then when you stitch through it you are quilting all 3 layers together. Trapunto is what the fabric, 2 fabrics are stitched together first, and the quilting layer, the stuffing layer, is added at the end, and then you can selectively choose which pieces you want to quilt, which pieces you want to be stuffed. And preparing to do this video, I thought I'd just have a little look on the internet and see if anybody was doing anything different, if there was any modern interpretations or anything like that. And although I could find machine quilted, so techniques adapted for doing it quicker on the machine, I couldn't find anybody doing the traditional method by hand, which is what I'm going to be showing you today. So that's not to say that it isn't worth doing just because other people aren't doing it. I think it's just not something that's on people's radars maybe. And I think it's a really nice little technique, and this is going to be very simple indeed, because it's just a technique I'm introducing you to, and then if you want to take it further you can explore further, and possibly, you know, if people want to, I can do a more detailed exploration of Trapunto in another video sometime. But at the moment it'll be suffice to say that you'll have the technique and how to do it by watching this. So I am just running stitching around my leaves because I need to enclose each area that needs to be stuffed, and that's what I'm doing now. Now the other 3 corners I haven't used the hoop, I've done it in my hand, and I found it quite easy to do that. The main thing is not to pull your stitches tight. You don't want any wrinkles or creases. You want it to be as smooth as you can, and to try and do the smallest, finest running stitch that you can. So I'm just got in the hoop because I know it's easier for you all to see it, and if I'm holding it in the hand I find it more difficult to film so you can see what's happening. Oops, my light just fell down. I shall just reorganise myself. Well, I've got reset up again. That was a bit of a shock. Anyway, and I'm going around my leaves and I'm making sure that it's an enclosed space. But also what I'm doing is I am not stitching on the outline. That was just really to enable the leaf veins to be put in with embroidery, and now I'm going around and I'm leaving maybe a couple of mils or a 1/16 of an inch around, so I don't want those embroidered veins to be coming right to the edge. I want to leave a little bit of white cloth between the embroidery and the edge that I'm putting in now. So when you come to doing the leaf shape and you get to the point of your leaf, I'm just going to take that one back so I can show you. The temptation, I haven't taken it all the way back, the temptation might be there's that where that one has stopped and that you skip over to do the other side, but it leaves no point. It wouldn't leave a point there. So always try and let a stitch either begin or end at the point of the leaf, like that. Don't leave it where you don't have a stitch actually defining the point. So these all have a stitch ending or beginning at the point of the leaf. It'll just look more pleasing than if it's sort of an open end. I know that sounds an obvious thing to be saying, but sometimes it can be easy, especially if you're a new stitcher, to just think, oh well, there's not enough room for a big stitch to the end, I'll just start on the other side. But it leaves the leaf shape without a point on, and they will look more aesthetically pleasing if you put that point on with a stitch, even if it means going larger than the outline that you're trying to fill in, or whatever it is. Larger or smaller doesn't matter. What matters is that you get that stitch defining the point. I've done those three, and because I'm trying to make the back as neat as I can, I'm just going to do a double wrap around my needle, and I'm going to finish off with a knot. I don't want to be weaving through anywhere, and I'll just cut a short tail. And I'm making sure I go all the way around and close that piece of outline right the way to the beginning again. That's it. I'll knot off. And because I've finished the leaves now, I'm just going to use a brush and some water, and I'm just going to water on top of my lines because I'm on a water erasable pen. And then you'll see how much larger the leaf is and how the veins are now sitting nicely inside the shape. So the next thing is to start the border lines, and I'm going to do this with some off-white cotton because you could do it with a colour, nothing stopping you doing it with a colour at all, but I'm quite happy with the colour to be inside my frame, and I'm going to do the frame in a more traditional way. I'm just going to find myself my cream thread. So I've reset up for my frame stitching, and I did find two sets of threads that I would use. So this is not quite a bright white of stranded cotton. I would have used 2 strands of that, but I'm actually going with this DMC Dentel, which is actually it's fila dental. It's actually lace making cotton. It's just a vintage thing. It's a bit grubby on the outside because it's quite old, but that's not going to bother me. I've got quite a bit of a length in the needle. I just want to not be fastening off all the time. And I am going to start right up at the point of this little corner. And so I should have said also, I have changed my needle to a smaller, finer needle. But I am actually going to do exactly the same of the smallest, most even stitches I can do. But you can do this in the hand just the same. Traditionally, they quite often use a very fine chain stitch, but I don't think that's necessary for what we're doing today. And I think a little running stitch is going to be perfectly fine and workable. And so I'm just going to come down this whole outline with my little fine running stitch. You can see that I'm making them quite small but I am going right through to the back, and my fingers underneath pushing up just so I can do it in the hoop. If you're doing it in the hand, make sure you keep stretching your fabric out so you do not gather it up at all. Actually, I've just sewn through my finger. I could feel it pulling on the skin. That's an embroiderer's, a sewer's thing, stitching through your finger. But I'm going to just do this off camera, I think, because there's nothing to be gained by you just watching me do running stitch all the way around this frame. But don't strand your cotton across any of the spaces, so you don't want to strand across really. If you need to finish off, finish off. If you need to go from here to there, finish off here and start again there. That is better than stranding your thread across. So I brought you back in because I'm hoping you can see how I'm doing these stitches in the hand rather than in the hoop. So first thing, I've changed to a fine needle, like I said before. And what the fine needle will do will be, and it'll encourage you to make a smaller stitch. And a smaller, more even stitch is definitely going to be something to aim for. So I'm taking about 3 stitches on my needle at a time. But when I pull it through, I'm going to make sure I pull my fabric because I do not want any puckering at all. 3 stitches, pulling through, making sure my fabric's flat. Try and hold things flat as well if you can. And so I've been all the way around the outside line already, and I'm about halfway through the inside line. Yeah, I've just got to go down that side now. I've finished my stitching all the way round, and so now I can take off all these blue lines with my bit of water, and also I'm going to take the basting stitches out. So I'm now ready to start actually quilting this up, and the quilting is all happening from the reverse. So I'll just show you how I've got the blue lines out now, and you can see how much bigger I made the leaves and let the veins just be inwards a little. So now turn it all over, and now you can see the back of it. To start off, I'm going to come to this one here. Now when you're doing the trapunto, we're actually stuffing in the back of this piece of leaf, and you might think that you're going to just go straight up like that, but actually that wouldn't be very easy to do because you'd end up with one piece and then 2 little ones. So it's much better, I'll go to another piece, it's much better to go on the diagonal. So instead of going in like that, I'm going to go in sideways and probably do 3 lengths, but they'll all be of a similar length. I'll show you what I mean. I've got a sharp pointed needle, and I have put 4 strands of wool. So I've just doubled my wool. I'm using this 4-ply. I've doubled it over and threaded it through my needle, and I'm going to work with the 4 strands of yarn. Now I could use this instead, but I know that a lot of you won't have this, so I'm going to show you doing it with the 4-ply, or you could use 2 lengths of double knitting, sort of a double knitting doubled over, or even 4, depends how big the areas are that you're stuffing. So definitely do this in the hand. And so I'm going to take my needle with the yarn on, and I'm going to just start inside my leaf outline, and I'm going to put my needle in, and I'm going to run it in between the 2 layers and come out just inside the outline again. I hope you can see that. I'm going to double check I haven't come through to the front, which I haven't, because you need to check, because sometimes you do come through to the front. And then I'm just going to hold on and pull that needle through until the yarn is coming through. I'll pull it all the way, and I'm just going to leave a little tail coming out, and I'm going to pull my fabric just to make sure it's stretched out, and then cut off. And I'm just going to leave a bit of a tail, but not much, because this is all going to get cut back, but just to make it easy to start off with. So we're just going to leave a bit of a tail, and then I'm going to come and do another line. So I'm not going in the same hole again, I'm going to do another. I'm going to put my needle in and out, check I haven't come through the front, no I haven't, and I'm going to hold again and pull my yarn through. And so by doing this, we're actually stuffing the piece of the little leaf is getting stuffed with the yarn. Cut the yarn off again. Be careful you're not cutting your material, but you shouldn't do, you can leave a little tuft. And it definitely feels like I need to do another one, so I'm going to do a third one. You want it to be nicely stuffed, not over tight, but just nicely stuffed up. And you can see that I'll actually be doing 3 very similar sizes of threads going through, because I've gone diagonal through the leaf. And cut that one off. So I'm going to just pull, make sure. Now if we're doing this really traditional, we can cut those right the way back, and you sort of scratch at the fabric to close the holes up. But I don't need to do it quite as much as that, because this is going to be sandwiched in a page and nobody's going to see the back. So I'm going to turn it round, and I'm going to check everything looks fine. I can feel that lovely little piece of stuffing there now. I don't know whether it's going to show up as much, but that's flat, and this has a proper plump roundness to it. That is Trapunto. I'm just going to pull my fabric, make sure that I've got it as nicely pushed up as I can, and when I go back onto the back, I'm going to super carefully cut these pieces back. So I don't want them very long. I'm just going to trim them. You don't have to trim it all in one go. You can just do it from various ends. Bend your fabric. Trim, trim, trim. If I was doing this really traditionally, I'd be manipulating that fabric until those ends almost disappeared underneath. See that one? Look, I can scratch at it and the ends disappeared. And that is more correct to do that. And I've got those ends in, look now. And I could do it with that side as well. But actually, I'm not bothered about it because it's going to be inside. But that is one stuffed leaf. And it's a proper little bump here on the front. So I'm going to do that with the next one. So again, I've got my 4 lengths of 4-ply in my needle. I'll take you back a little bit. And I'll do this one. So again, I'm not lying my needle like that. I'm going to go in on the diagonal, near to the perimeter. I'm going to waggle my needle through and come out near the perimeter at the other side. Don't want to pick up any embroidery. I'll double check. No, my needle hasn't come through. Sometimes it does without you realising. Pull, 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 pull as near as you can and cut off. So you're lying the stuffing side by side and not trying to go into the same holes. Each little piece going through is its own little piece. And then once you get the eye of the needle through, so that you need a big enough eye that will pull that through. So if you're using very thick yarn, you will need a bigger eye to make the hole that it's going to get through. And you want it firmly stuffed without it being puckering. But the fabric should just stretch around everything. There we go. pull it in, stretch my fabric, cut the yarn, and then we check everything. I'll put my needle down a minute, check from the front. I'm going to just press it and pull the fabric just to make sure it's going to make the really nice little raised up piece. And when I go on the back, I can cut that back even more. I'll just cut that bit back there, just shave it off. As long as they're not in the way, you don't have to get them super short. As long as they're not going to be in the way of the rest of your embroidery. The shorter you can get them, the better. And then if you feel you want to try and manipulate that, you can just take your needle and scratch away at there. And if you want to try and get those ends in, you can do so. And this is why you needed a fine fabric, because you need the fabric to be able to open up to accept the needle with the yarn. Now if this was a great big area, sometimes you cut a little slit in the back and you can push stuffing in, and you could cut up pieces of roving and push it in like you would stuff with maybe cotton wool or something. But these are just narrow pieces. We don't need to cut anything at all. I'm just going to do the whole thing with a big-eyed needle. Give it a good stretch. Turn it over and check. Pull, pull. So to do the outside pieces, this lovely frame going round, again, I'm going to do it from the back. I'm going to start at the point. You can't go around corners by putting your needle around. You have to plan the stages. We've got the way the corners cross over. As soon as you come to the crossing over piece, that's where you would have to stop. And I can run a piece of wool right the way down here, right the way around there, and up to that corner. So I need a length that's as much as that. My blue's come back there. I'm not very happy about that. I hope it goes. I'm going to start here at the corner, and I'm going to go as far as my needle can go. So I can't bend my needle, so the way that we do it, I'm going to go straight, and I'll pull out. And then before I pull that all the way through, I'm going to go back in the same hole. I'm just going to pull that back until I can see the hole where the needle came out. I'm going to put my needle back in there and go around the corner. And I can put my needle as far along as I can get, and it can come out. I'm double checking the front. I'll pull that through, and then it's going to disappear. So I can pull that yarn now. I'll leave a tail out. Make sure I'm pulling. So now I'm going to pull back on there, pull back on the yarn. I'm going to put my needle back into the hole. I don't want to take a stitch. I want to go back in where I've just come out. So I'll pull back so I can see that hole, put my needle in. And I'm going to take this yarn right the way along. There I go. Now if you can actually do it almost like you were doing a gathering thread. You can keep your needle inside and you can keep threading it through. It can be difficult because you've got a sharp point on it, so sometimes it might catch, but if you can wiggle it along and keep going, making sure that you're checking that you're not coming through the front. But anytime you feel you're getting stuck and you can't go any further, you can just bring your needle out and pull through, and you will pull your wool through until it disappears in, like that. And then you can close the hole up, and I'm ready to do the next bit. I can pull the wool back, find the hole where my needle's just come out of, and put it back in there. What you don't want to end up with is a stitch on the back. All has to be inside. And I'm going to go along now until I come to the place where the pattern crosses over, and that's where I'll finish. I'm wiggling my needle just to make sure it's going along. And there's where my threads cross, and I have to finish there. I can't go further across, so I have to finish. So I'm holding on here. Just hold on to the part you've already done here, holding on to the yarn, pull, and it won't be any effort, it'll just go through. Just make sure you're not going to pull a knot, and it'll pop in, and you can just put your fingernail on and close the hole up. So now I need to just make sure that is really stretched out. I don't want to be pulling anything tight, and I can cut that piece off. And when I turn it over, we now have a lovely corded piece of work that is quilted up. And pull everything nicely. Now I might actually do another layer in there. I think I will. I'm going to do another layer. See if I've got enough in here. I do. I'm going to go in again. I'm going to hold on to those tails. I'm going to go back in. So probably what that's telling me is that 4 lengths of 4 ply are probably not quite enough. And every time I bring my needle out, I just pull back, find the hole that the needle has made, and go back into the exact same place. I'm going to keep sliding my needle along. You'll find that the second time is actually a bit easier because the first line of wool has already made a channel for your needle to go through. Hold on to the one I've already done and just look how easy that pulls through. Make sure as your little loop comes that you don't have any knots, and it should just pop right in like that. And I stretch it out. It's such a nice thing to do. It's such a different look. And so there is the first bit of Trapunto. And you can see that beautifully corded line. And it's all about the shade and the light and the way the light catches it. So I can take the cording onwards by going on the other side of where the line crosses, and I'll do exactly the same. I just go in a straight line as far as I can. So there's that one. And I'm going to leave a little loop just to leave it enough to give it some ease. So I'm going to turn round, going to go back into that little piece, exactly the same, find the hole, put your needle back in, and as I come around here, as far as I can get, I'm just going to leave a little loop on purpose there, and as everything gets pulled it might disappear, but it's leaving a little bit of slack, just because if it gets pulled at a corner it's totally going to pull everything. And then I can go onwards, pull back, find the hole. I'm going to go down here now. I should have changed the length of my thread, my yarn. Stretch it out. I'm going to take this as far as I can. The main thing is to try not to have a stitch on the outside, but to go back into the same hole that your needle's just come out of, and then slide it in between both sets of fabrics. Pull this one, pop it through. But you'll find that you realise how much you need to fill it. It doesn't want to be too empty. It needs to be stuffed up. But there's the little piece coming round here, and you can see that lovely, the light and shade on it. So it's really nice to do like a Celtic knot, that type of a thing. It looks beautiful in this, or quilted feathers. They look really beautiful too. But I'm going to carry on, so I'm going to change my needle and put some of this on, and I'll see whether this is much different. So I am actually going to look for a different needle. I think I'm going to use one of these big ones. Now this is quite a good one, I think. That one has a sharp point, and so has this one. That's got a really good eye. I'll try this one. That's quite a big needle. It's got a big long eye. It's got a sharp point. Let's see. There we go. And that should make a big enough hole to get this pulled through in the first place. So I will start from the point. Right, it's got a point as the other one. Okay, so I can get that far round before I need to come out. So I'll pull that through. I had a good eye for leading this through. Leave the tail. Back into the hole. Actually, you can maybe see that better with the bigger needle. Back into the same hole and taking it onwards. Oh, it's actually being an easier needle to work with. Pull my needle through, and look at that, it's just going to go straight the way in. I'm going to hold this roving here just so it doesn't knot up, and pop the end in, and you can see the hole where the needle and the roving went, and I can just sort of do that and fiddle it, stretch it out. Actually, it's that point isn't quite as sharp, and it's actually working really well. So that's where I'm crossing the other one. I need to come out there. I'll push through. Hold on to the point. Pull my yarn through. And with any luck, it'll pop in. And there it was, it's popped inside. Pull, 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 cut off. This is a better thickness. So let me just see, is that? And all it is going round and doing it, pulling, pulling, pulling. And when you've got them all done, going back to trim them back. So actually this needle, I think, has definitely worked better. It's got the biggest eye, and a load's sharp on the point. It's not as sharp and pointy as the other one, and I think it threaded through in a nicer way. So let's see. So this is how I am leaving it for this week. So I hope you can see the beautifully relief frame that's going round there. Just needs stretching out a bit. I might press it with a bit of steam from the back into a pad or something, so I don't want to flatten any of this. I want it to be relieved, but I maybe, just give it a little press out. I've had to water again. My blue marks came back, and that's never happened to me before. I've always been successful with this water erasing pen, but I've just had to water them again because they'd come back, so I hope that's going to be fine. So all of the little leaves are now relief, and the frame is now relief. I feel as if maybe it would be nice to add a little feathery little piece on here, but I'm not going to do it yet because I want to concentrate on this central motif. So for me it's a pansy. I'm going to be doing yellow and purple, but whatever you're putting in the middle would be helpful to have that reference photo and the colours that you would like to have on it. And before I go, I'm just going to show you the back of that. You can see the wool going through and the little loops that I left at every corner. So if you're doing corners at all, make sure a loop is left at every corner. The nice thing about Trapunto is the fact that there isn't any padding anywhere else. So it's not like the whole thing is puffy. You only have the padding where you want it. And I think it's really lovely. So I got a fine hanky thinking that I would be able to show the colour through because I can see my hand through. And I did a tiny bit of stitching on it. And I used green wool and red wool just to show that it could show through. Now I have just about got it there, but it's really not, and I came through there by accident, but it's not showing the colours as much as I think it should do. It should be, this top should be finer, so you get more of a shade of the colour. So although you can see they're different, but you'd need a finer cloth than that even for it to show to the best effect. I think even though it's a very old technique, it's very useful for embroidery today. You could be doing a whole piece of work for whatever, not the stitch journal, just for something else, and want a little padded motif or something. But it would all be worked from the back, and none of the rest of your work would be padded up. That's what's nice about it. And quite often it is just white on white. There's not normally colourful embroidery on it. Oh, and I should also say that I actually ended up using 2 strands of this going through. So the ones I did the wool with the 4 strands, I went back with another 4. And the places where I used this, I actually went back and did that twice. So you want them to feel firm. And you want to be able to feel that there's like a little rope in there. So all set for the thread painting, the silk shading next week. I really hope that you enjoy doing this piece of Trapunto, and if you've done it before, you feel you can do something a little bit more complicated than just the line of the frame, by all means just have an experiment, do a practice. It's really nice. So that's it for now. And I'm going to leave that there for this week. I've got 2 bits of channel news. The first one is that Leslie, the winner of the sewing box, has still not been in touch. I've waited and waited because I'm aware that it's over the summer holidays and people can be away or they're doing other things and they're not always watching. But I'm just going to put this up again. So Leslie Bland 1503, you are the winner of the sewing box. I'm going to give it another fortnight. In fact, I'll give it till I come back from my holiday in Scotland, because I'm going away for a week on the 24th of August, which is when I'll be 65, and I'm going away for a week to a cottage with my sister. I'll wait till I come back. If there's nobody been in touch, I will do another draw, and so somebody else will be in with a chance of winning. And the other little bit of channel news is I'm getting on well with the coat, so I'm going to show you how far I've got. I've been stitching away. I have the collar on and the collar facing. So that's all beautifully stitched. The collar turns beautifully as well. And it wasn't as tricky as the pattern made out it was going to be. It actually was pretty simple. It's all been understitched, and I've understitched just with a running stitch. I didn't even bother with the running back stitch, it's just running stitch. But I've understitched the collar either on the back side for the collar return and on the facing side for the facing. And the other thing I've done is I have bound the pocket seam that I blanket stitched originally. Yeah, I should have just bound it from the beginning. I knew I'd be doing a bound armhole seam, and as I was pressing the facing out, I kept thinking, why haven't I just bound that? And so I've gone ahead and done it. And I've bound it with a little strip of Tarna lawn. The only bit I've ever had. Somebody gave me the lining of an old waistcoat, and I have had it ever since, and it wasn't really very big, but I've managed to cut some bias strips from the back of the waistcoat, and that's what I'm hoping is going to be enough to not only bind the pockets, the inside pocket seam, but I'm going to bind both the armholes in the same manner as well. But I'll be videoing that when I do it. and I'm almost up to setting in the sleeves. In fact, that is the next thing. The very next thing I need to do is set in the sleeves, and then I'll be ready for the sides and the arms and the hem. It's actually not taking as long as you think, or as long as I thought. It's the embroidery that'll take longer. But I'm pleased it's got so far. The collar does look really nice. It's lying beautifully. And with that, I'm just going to say thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed doing a bit of, I hope you will enjoy doing a bit of trapunto. It's really nice to do, and it's fiddly but not difficult. And if you don't want to do it, just do another embroidery frame. You don't have to copy me at all. You can just do your own thing. All I'm here for is hoping to encourage you onwards and show you that there's all sorts of other things that you can do with embroidery and stitching than just, I don't know, whatever's popular at the time. And that's why you've got an old-fashioned thing like Trapunto coming into the Stitch Channel. I'll see you next time, everybody. Please watch another video. See what else I've been up to other than stitching a coat and doing some sashiko. Except I do have another sashiko project coming that I'm quite excited about. Anyway, catch you next time when you come and see me, and thanks for visiting. Bye everyone. Happy stitching.